So I haven't thought exactly 100% what I'm going to say here, but again, I'm going through the obits. And like I said, you can learn a lot from the obits. You really can. And I'm looking at this couple, and I didn't use their names for obvious reasons. That's, insignificant. But they were both born, this couple, they were born in 1928. So they've been on this earth a long time. And they died within a day of each other. Norman died December 15th, 2022, and Evanol, his wife, died May 30th. Oh, okay, I guess it wasn't a day. No, it was. She died December 16th, 2022. So that's how close they were, that when one died, the other one died within a day. And they were married for 71 years. Now, I know, people's sensibilities and their conscience and all that has just been so dumbed down and so seared that when you give them statistics like this, they've been so movieized that it really doesn't hit home like it should. Some of these things should shock you when you find out that this couple that's been together, first of all, they were born in 1928. Who even remembers 1928? They were married for 71 years. And the newspaper article in the obit says they had a strong Lutheran faith that guided them throughout their lives. Okay? They didn't have a biblical faith. They didn't have a strong biblical faith. They didn't have a strong Christian faith. It was a strong Lutheran faith that guided them throughout their lives. Now, some of you, again, you've been so brainwashed by the liberal left and Facebook that you knee-jerk when I say something like that. Oh, well, they could have been saved. Well, you don't know. Judge not to even... Hang on. You don't know what you're talking about. I actually looked up, I've actually done some research on what is a Lutheran faith. And in particularly, what is a strong Lutheran faith that guided them throughout their lives? And when you look up a strong Lutheran faith, when you read their own materials, you get into 5-point tulip Calvinism, which, if you know anything about that, you don't know really if you have ever gotten saved or not, because you're incapable of making a decision on your own for salvation. So you just hope in your life that you're one of the elect. And that's very strong in the Lutheran faith, is 5-point tulip Calvinism. You have to be confirmed, just like a Roman Catholic. The emphasis, instead of being on the Catholic Church, there's a very strong emphasis on the Lutheran Church. It's like talking to a Catholic who is in love with his own church. A Lutheran is the same way. And like a Catholic, they believe in infant baptism. And they believe that, you're basically baptized into the church, you're baptized into the faith, and that it's important for an infant to be baptized as a means of grace and all this sort of thing. And then you get into, well, what do you believe about water baptism? What about an adult? And I'll quote to you from an official source, one of the apologetic works from the Lutherans themselves. And they're talking about water baptism. When they say baptism, they always mean water baptism. In every verse that says anything about baptism in the Bible, the Lutheran interprets anything about water or baptism baptism in general, as water baptism. So they say, quote, in holy baptism, now right away, red flag, there's no such thing as holy baptism. But I'll continue. In holy baptism, he meets us, that's capital H, God. God meets us even on the threshold of existence, takes us into his loving arms. Okay, so this is salvation with water baptism. I'll read it again so you grasp it. In holy baptism, God meets us. All right, that's where he meets you when you get in the water baptism tank in the Lutheran Church. Even on the threshold of existence, takes us, this is where he takes us into his loving arms. You weren't in his loving arms before the water baptism. Places his hands in blessing upon our heads, okay, at the point of water baptism. Breathes into us a new life. All right? They're saying that the new birth takes place with water baptism and adopts us into his own family. So you're not adopted into the family of God until water baptism. If the sinner afterwards fall from this baptismal grace, goes back into the ways of sin and breaks his side of the covenant. They say that water baptism is a part of this covenant, and we don't have time to get into all that. Salvation is not the covenant that you read about in Hebrews, all that blah, blah. And breaks his side of the covenant, so it's not Jesus Christ alone. You have your side to keep, faith and works. God is still faithful and comes to him again by his Holy Spirit through his word, strives with him and endeavors to turn or convert him again from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. How does he convert him again? Does he get water baptized again? No. This is like the Campbellite. You don't get water baptized again to get resaved after you lost it. This again gets into the 5-point tulip Calvinism, where if you were predestined before the world began to be one of the elect, then you get regenerated and you can't lose it no matter what you do because you're one of the elect. That's what they're saying, but they're not going to say it. But they do say that water baptism is necessary for salvation. So here's this poor couple. I mean, really, it's pathetic more than anything, but it's really sad. They lived on this earth since 1928. They had a long, long life. They're smiling there. They have a real, they look like they're happy people. They had tons of children, grandchildren. And after spending 71 years together, loving each other, couldn't imagine, obviously, a day without each other, because the one died a day after the other. Could not imagine. The wife couldn't imagine the husband going to hell and burning forever. Be biblical now. Don't go dumping your Bible now. The husband could absolutely not even comprehend the idea of his dear wife going to a place like hell and burning forever. My furnace just turned on if you heard that. Now think about this, folks. This is how damned the Lutheran Church is. It's not just, it's another denomination and they have their beliefs and we have ours. Think about this. It's bad enough that, Norman, I'm not giving their last names, that Norman sent himself off to hell, essentially, and that Evanol sent herself off to hell. Think about the spouse's love for each other. Norman's wife, his dear wife of 71 years, wound up in hell. Why? Because they had a strong Lutheran faith, that's why. Evanol's beloved husband that she loved for 71 years went to hell and is in hell right now. Why? Because he had a strong Lutheran faith. You see how tragic this is when you realize that it's not just about them being damned, it's about their loved ones being damned. What about their kids? You know, if they had a strong Lutheran faith, and the strong Lutheran faith pushes infant baptism as a necessity, you know that they pushed for their kids to be baptized into the Lutheran Church, and the grandkids, they need to be baptized into the Lutheran Church. And these children and grandchildren grew up thinking, "Oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm saved. I'm a Christian. I was baptized into the church when I was an infant. I'm okay. I'm fine." And then Norman and Evanol in eternity, they not only are in hell together, which is very, very tragic if you think about it, but after a while, their children start dropping into hell with them. Their grandchildren start dropping into hell with them. You say, "This is pretty ugly, Don." Yes, I agree. I absolutely 100% agree with you. It is very ugly. It's tragic. It's sad. But the problem is, we're, as Americans, and oh, hey, man, just do your thing, man. You do you, boo. You do you, boo. We've been programmed. And we need to realize that it's not just the Catholics or the whoever. These individuals who are clinging to a false faith are going to hell, and they're burning forever. And they're taking their loving spouse with them that they may have been married to for 71 years. They're taking their children with them and their grandchildren. And you look through the Lutheran books on doctrine, and it's just heresy, 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 heresy. They can't get 2 verses straight. I'm not kidding. Every time they come across a passage within the Bible, any verse, they get it upside down and backwards. And that's what they're giving to their church members that trust them every time they go to their church service. And it's Bible perversion, Bible correction. You understand what I'm saying here? I think maybe we need to change our attitude a little bit, change how we see things a little bit, and realize, you look at something like this, it's, oh, isn't this nice loving couple? Oh, they were good Lutherans, they were good Christians, and this isn't a great story. This is a tragic story. This is a horror story. It's a horror story. And I wanted to give this so that maybe someone out there can start taking this stuff a little more seriously. I've seen where so-called Bible-believing friends of mine, so-called Bible-believing family members of mine, not all of them, certain ones, they'll claim to be Bible believers. They'll claim, oh, King James Bible, rightly divide the word of truth, rah, 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 sis kumbah. But then when it comes down to a particular issue that they find offensive, or it's just puts a bad taste in their mouth, they don't want to talk about it. All of a sudden, they want to join the TV world. All of a sudden, their faith turns into more like a Netflix faith, rather than a King James faith. It comes to, the gay thing, or the transgender thing. Well, some people are just born that way, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Or it comes down to a false denomination teaching a damnable salvation plan. Or a false religion. Well, Grandma, she was a good old Catholic, and I don't doubt she was a good Catholic, and I don't doubt she was a very sweet, nice woman. But if she died believing what her church taught her, she's in hell right now and has been there for a while. That ought to wake you up. Are you really a Bible believer? Do you really believe what that King James Bible says? Or is that just you're like these people here? You're a like they're a strong Lutheran faith. They have a strong Lutheran faith. Oh, I have a strong King James faith. I'm King James. Yeah, something to think about.